meteorologist here at HailTrace. So I'm here today because HailTrace is celebrating a major milestone. We're hitting 10 years in existence, and I've been here for 6 of them. So it's super exciting, the fact that we managed to make it this far and got plenty more ahead of us. So my interest in weather dates all the way back to when I was a little kid. I was about 4 or 5 years old. It was a big snowstorm that hit Connecticut where the snow drifts went up over the top of my head. And ever since then, my interest in weather just grew and grew as I got a little older. So before I was at HailTrace, graduated with a Bachelor in Meteorology in May of 2013. I was like many college students, graduated and moved back to with my parents. I had nothing really lined up at the time, working at just a doggy daycare place, so I just really buckled down, applied to places left and right, and I went to a lot of TV jobs, lost out. Saw this on LinkedIn, I saw storm chasing, and I was like, hey, that sounds pretty cool. You know, maybe I don't need to do the TV thing. The whole thing was very informal. I remember the first interview, we got really sidetracked, and me and Derek were just kind of BSing about weather nonstop. So I knew that was when I was like, okay, I think this might be actually going pretty well. I had 2 weeks to move out to Oklahoma City. Having never stepped foot there, I knew no one there. Derek was extremely helpful, which was fantastic. He went to a lot of apartments for me, and he went and looked at all of them and gave me the feedback, honest feedback of, hey, this is really far from the office. And it was super, super helpful because otherwise we would have been going in completely blind. He helped me and my parents move all the furniture into my apartment. He was very warm, very kind, so I didn't know too much about the South, and I was like, man, people really are a lot nicer in the South. But I think it might have just been Derek's just super kind and generous. The first day at the office was pretty quiet. I mean, I knew I was jumping in on a startup company, but I didn't realize I was pretty much the first person he was really hiring, at least at the time. That first week, I had to learn how to do something I didn't learn in college, which was, you know, mapping hailstorms. I'd never seen big hail in my life, and I had to do a lot of learning. Derek was super knowledgeable and extremely helpful. So my first year was 2014. That storm season ended up being, after the fact, I found out well below normal. It was a very quiet storm season, but for a newbie like me and having to kind of teach myself a lot of the processes of how HailTrace was going to be going about doing a lot of the mapping and stuff, it felt extremely busy for me. There was a lot of very late nights, very weird hours. I knew nature was kind of all over the place with storms, but it really kind of it hit me like a truck, especially during the month of May, where I was like, man, I am working basically nonstop. I got to go storm chasing for the first time for real. I had storm chased a couple times in college in Connecticut, but that doesn't really count. Super cool going around in Kansas and lots of Oklahoma. I saw bison for the first time, and I still got to see hail, and I got to see storm structure I'd never seen in my life. So it was I had a pretty low bar to fulfill, and it was super exciting. And that really hooked me in. Be like, you know, even with these crazy hours, I'm definitely in for the long haul here at HailTrace. So HailTrace has changed drastically since I first started in 2014. When I came on, it was definitely more just weather and hail map focused. We had our little hail forecast, just graphic we would make when there was a decent risk. We focused on maps, focused on map sales, and that was really the bread and butter of HailTrace. And then over the years, I started out saying, oh, we're like this, I'm a storm chaser that does this like mapping software, and I would just get a question of like, so what channel do you work for? And it evolved into, I now pretty much say we work for a tech company that focuses on weather. All the stuff that HailTrace is doing now is things that, you know, I never had any idea we'd come to with all the innovations we had to help with, basically turning into a sales tool for the restoration industry with weather involved. And obviously with all the live videos and stuff, we really pushed it to as close as we can to a studio quality. My role here at HailTrace changed quite a bit. Again, I was the first meteorologist, so I was really the only guy in town for a while. As the team got larger, we needed a little bit more leadership, and Derek couldn't do everything, so I ended up moving into the lead meteorologist position. My role has kind of moved beyond just doing hail maps and impact reports, where anyone watching this probably has seen my face on our Facebook page quite a bit, doing all of our live coverage videos, our live forecast videos. Things have really changed for me quite a bit, and I feel like even looking into the future, are going to continue changing and evolving. So with any startup company, or really any company in general, there's going to be the good times and the bad times, and a lot of the rough times are pretty front-loaded to the first couple years I was at HailTrace. There was some turnover early on, a couple employees didn't work out, and that unfortunately put some strain financially on us, but we were able to thankfully hire some great members to the team right after that. So I guess it takes times of desperation to have some real awesome growth happen. So I know there were definitely some times where I was getting handwritten paychecks, and DERIK made sure that I was getting paid, because again, I was out here alone and I had really steep student loans those first couple of years out of college. So if I wasn't getting paid, I was going to run out of money really quick. But DERIK did take care of me, even knowing there were some times where I was like, I hope this works out. When I applied to HailTrace, I knew DERIK was very upfront that this was a startup, and there was a big risk with that. I mean, in 2014, HailTrace had really just kind of gotten off the ground, and I knew moving out here about 1,600 miles away, I didn't know anybody, that hey, there's a chance I could be here for not even a year and have to go back home, tail between my legs, going, well, I tried. But I guess that's just kind of part of who I am. I mean, I do like the storm chase and stuff. There's a certain level of risk with that. So I pretty much committed, going, hey, you know what, if this actually works out and everything, this could be huge, this could be awesome. I'm jumping on the ground floor or something, and I think that made me even more dedicated to be like, hey, you know what, we got to make sure this thing works out. I mean, my hope for the future is, our weather staff can continue to grow. We can continue to come up with new and exciting innovations for you guys that, I'm not even thinking of yet. I mean, I feel like that's how innovation works. If I can tell you right now what we're going to be doing 6 years from now, then chances are we probably should be doing it already. So we even begin to imagine where we were at when I first started, and I still can't begin to imagine where we're going to be at 6 years from now, or 10 years from now even. We push our videos to the point where people confuse us with just a normal news channel. That'd be kind of cool. And yeah, just kind of keep pushing forward and innovating and staying ahead of the curve. So having just passed my 6th year here at HailTrace, it makes me the longest tenured employee outside of the owner, DERIK. And why I've stuck with it, from early on, I could see DERIK's passion for weather and for this company and really wanting it to succeed. And I think it just rubbed off on me really quickly. And I'm super invested in the company, even when things were getting tough, and I would have to be like, oh boy, is this gonna survive another few months? Am I still gonna be able to get paid? I was like, I'm gonna stick with this till the end if it's gonna go down. Going forward, and now the things have really turned into beyond what I've even imagined like the best possible outcome would be, and it continues to evolve. I don't see myself working anywhere else. And it really comes down to, it's a family setting with weather. Like, I'm able to do what I've always wanted to do. I focus only on severe weather. We get to go storm chase. I still get to do video stuff, so I kind of get to do the TV thing. It's really comforting to know that, like, if I'm having a serious problem, personally or financially or something, I can talk to people on staff, and I'm not going to be judged or anything. DERIK's always been there to really help out with any sort of hardships that are going on, and that's something you don't see at a company very much, and I'm very proud to tell people about. So one thing I'd like to say to all of the supporters and clients of HailTrace is just a huge thank you. Honestly, probably one of the things I'm most thankful for is the clients out there that will give us back like constructive criticism and like honest feedback with our storms. What HailTrace does is all done by person, and the only way for us to improve is for us to get the feedback, both good and bad, so we can improve. You guys are one of the main reasons why we are as good as we are, and able to improve ourselves to keep HailTrace at the high standard that we strive to be. And finally, specifically to DERIK, probably the biggest thing is just thank you for your kindness and your generosity, especially early on. I was taking a large risk, and you were taking a big risk as well, hiring some kid out of college from Connecticut and bringing him all the way out to Oklahoma, just on a hope and a prayer that I would work out. Just how welcoming you really were, and the fact that I didn't know anybody out here, and you know, a bunch of holidays went by before I could even go home and see my friends and family, and you and your family were very open arms and welcomed me in for, you know, different holidays and everything, and make me feel like one of the family. That's something that, you know, I don't think most bosses, or especially CEOs, are willing to do for their staff.